We can crop it afterwards. So
I like the half-hour closed notes version, though. That was good.
Yeah, you know what I was playing. The only thing I'm not thrilled about is just the fact that I don't see where with that is it Loom? Yeah, Loom. I couldn't see where I could download it. So it's hosted on this Loom thing, but if I ever lose access to that Loom, or if I want to distribute that video in another way, all I can do is send a link. So that's the one challenge I'm dealing with, or that's a consideration.
Yeah, there's got to be
Can
another
I
way.
ask, user 4, I think user 4, we got introduced as Tammy, is that right?
Yes.
Oh, yes. How, let me see here. More. Rename.
Okay.
Okay, done.
Be gentle with the renaming, JP.
Oh, you can have fun with that.
Oh.
No, I got to be a good host. You guys can roast me royally if I'm not careful. So let's get a little bit of chatter going here. I'm going to open the chat dialog box here so I can see anybody on the call so far that wasn't on one of the previous ones.
Yeah, me. I couldn't be there.
Okay. So there's been 2 previous sessions. Were you at either of them, Art?
No.
Okay. Well, if you're curious of how they went, I do have recordings of them, and I've been distributing those via email to the people that have signed up.
Oh, you have a recording of the first one.
I have a recording of the first one, but I also have the material covered in the second one, recorded as a, I don't know what the word, how you describe it. It's a recap.
Okay.
Susan's nodding like she actually saw it, so.
Way to go, Susan.
Appreciate your patronage. Okay, welcome, Sydney.
Hi, JV.
So I was getting a lesson in nameology. Sydney reached out and asked me what JP stood for, assuming it wasn't Justice of the Peace. And I explained to him how my full name is Jean-Pierre Michel Madden, and that the Madden's Irish. And my brother is named David Patrick. And I proposed that was the Irish side, and he duly pointed out that David is actually a Hebrew name. I grew up thinking it was Irish.
Huh.
We all come from the same roots, JP.
We do indeed.
Art
Somewhere
Alexander
we're all
isn't even Italian.
interconnected. I think I've been looking for Art Alexander. Do you exist, Art?
I do exist.
There is an
Larger than
Art?
life.
He's stuck in that big library of his all the time.
I'm easy to be found.
How do we find you?
Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn.
Throw your
The
website.
0411s.
And
Yeah.
guys, this is all about connecting, and so yeah, by all means, if you want to be open and to be reached, use the chat box. Get your details in the chat box, and let everybody can copy paste.
Yep. artalexander.ca. I'm revamping my website, but
Well, there's a couple people on this call that can help you with that if you need help.
Mhm.
You don't have to go it alone. Okay. Now, who is accounting? We should probably give that individual a different name.
If I'm correct, that's edit.
Okay.
because I had the same question when she was on a different call last week.
Okay.
Did both start?
Yes.
9:01.
She's showing you some of her samples of
Yeah, that's how I
Yeah, and
recognized.
I was thinking that I need to get a background with my logo in it, some corporate stuff, you know, like that's these
Yeah.
Zoom calls. We got to have our product in there somehow, right? And so Edit's got the jump on us.
Yeah, very smart. And thanks, Susan, for adding your contact details in there. And if you didn't catch it before, I'm recommending to everybody, let's get some networking going in here in this call. So by all means, put your contact details in the chat box. And maybe even throw a quick little summary of what it is you do and who's your ideal customer, since that is kind of the conversation we're having today.
I'll get my John Maxwell boardroom
Oh, I like that.
in there.
It'll be really spooky if I see somebody walking behind you, Art. That'd be a good background.
Yeah.
Have a secretary carrying coffees.
Yeah. She already brought me the coffee.
Okay, so we still got people joining in, so we're just going to allow for a bit of that. Even getting a few people registering after the start time, which is encouraging. It's funny, there was a World Trade Center event yesterday morning that I had in my calendar and I hadn't registered. And yesterday morning, a good hour and a half before the event was supposed to start, I went to get in on it, and they have their registration closed already. Thought that was very odd. What's the advantage to?
The day before, they always want you to register.
Yeah, but it's not like they need to put out placemats and notepads, right?
Yeah.
Big old habits die hard, and they don't necessarily always serve you. So, Dom, are you back on with us? Or have we lost him? We've lost our host, it appears, so we're going to for sure wait until he comes back. Wouldn't be a very good guest if I started eating before the host was at the table, so to speak. And we got names here, so welcome back, Ben.
Good morning to you all.
Okay.
Ben's in a world of his own.
Yeah, top of the world. Yeah.
There you go. Outstanding in his own field. Okay, so we have, just to bring everybody up to speed, we're encouraging everyone to use the chat box, throw some comments in there as to what you do and who your ideal client is, and your contact details so we can get some networking going. I'm also going to ask you guys to throw in the chat. We're going to try and manage this, and hopefully I get Dom back on here that he can facilitate. But we're going to get I have a couple of volunteers. Wave to the camera, Tammy and Scott there. So we're going to use them to walk through the process that we're talking about. But we're going to also use breakout rooms. So I'm going to try, and this is going to be an imposition on Dom to manage the breakout rooms. But what I'm hoping is we can have at least spread out those that are eager to test their material, eager to kind of lead a group in a discussion, and so we don't have everybody in one room that is eager to talk and a whole bunch of listeners and others. So Dom, I was just explaining to the group that when we do the breakout rooms, I'm going to look for volunteers to lead those breakout rooms. Now we've got 16, 20 people, approaching 20 people on the call here. Obviously, ideally, we got everybody who wants to be involved and volunteer, but at the very least, if we can have a few people, and So
Okay.
Dom, one thing I'm going to do is give you control as host. Okay. And then if I can impose on you to manage the breakout rooms when we get to that.
Okay, sounds good. And then this time I'll remember to come back
Yes,
after we break
it
out.
was a test. It was a testament last week to how engaging the conversations must have been. So I'm
Yeah,
making
and
notes.
hopefully this time you won't have to call me on my cell. So
My problem is I'm far too patient sometimes. So we are 6 minutes past, and I do want to be very respectful of everybody's time, and I do promise that while I will be doing a hard stop to the content at 10 a.m., I am going to be making myself available to stick around afterwards and would love to carry on the conversation. Also, will make sure to share with everybody the opportunity to reach out to me directly and have conversations about the material we covered in previous sessions as well as this one. Dom, I'll let you give us a launch here.
okay, well, thank you everyone for being here this morning. So I'm here so on behalf of the Manitoba Marketing Network. We are a board of volunteer business owners that our mandate is to help other business owners achieve success, and we do that through some of our own workshops, but we also help other local business like JP to promote their workshop and partner up with our members to try to help them promote their services. And yeah, so today's the third workshop on sales from JP. So JP, thank you very much for getting those wonderful workshops ready for the Manitoba Marketing Network. Next week, we have Dan Furlan, who is doing a workshop on HR. And the following week is also part 2 of the HR workshop. The details isn't on the website yet, but everyone will receive an email with the detail of the 2 workshops. They will be on Thursdays instead of Wednesdays. They'll be on Thursdays at noon. So that's the next 2 workshops. After that, there will be a 3rd workshop on I guess communicating your message on your website. So that's in 3 weeks from now. And we are also starting a mastermind group on Fridays. So the mastermind is for our members only. So as some of you know, the Manitoba Marketing Network, we have free members that have access to workshops like this, but we also have our loyalty program. Loyalty program is $129 per year, and it gives you discounts on events, on networking events, and on workshops. Now, right now, because of COVID, all the workshops are free, but when things come back to semi-normal, there will be fees for networking events and things like that. So the loyalty program allows you to have access to the Facebook group, the MMN Facebook group, and will give you access to masterminds, which will start next week. So on Fridays, basically mastermind is you join a group with maybe a business problem that you have, and every week we work on 1 or 2 of the business problem that the members come with, and then we kind of mastermind and talk about how we can help you solve this business problem. So that's all for me. Also, so the Art Alexander down here is also a board member of the Manitoba Marketing Network. I'm a board member, and I don't see any other members in the list here. Maybe raise your hand if you've ever been to a networking event from MMN. Let's see. Most of you, I know Sid has. Oh yeah, Joseph, you have. How are you, Joseph? Yeah, so there's Art and myself that are board members. My company is a Sphere Media agency. We do web design and digital marketing for small business. A lot of small business owners find digital marketing to be very confusing and time consuming. So we just get that off your shoulders. That's the job of my company. So without further ado, JP, you can take it away.
I thank you, sir. And I do want to thank.
I'm going to mute everyone for now because there's a bit of background noise. And if you have a question, you can drop it into the chat box, and then JP will be answering it that way. I'm having some computer issues. If I disappear, I will be back. But okay.
Okay. That's ominous. We'll fingers crossed that doesn't happen. But yeah, we'll we'll get everybody muted. But by all means, if you want to raise your hand, you want to have add a comment, by all means, unmute yourself. This is not a formal presentation of any sort this time. This is a dialogue and an exchange and a conversation. So as much interaction as possible, I think we will get more out of it, all of us, if we work it that way.
Okay, and I see that Art has his hand up. Art, is that an accident or do you have a question?
No, you said to raise your hand if you've ever been to a Manitoba Marketing Network.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is that how that works? Yeah.
Works.
Okay, I won't raise my hand again.
All right.
On that note, I would suggest, because those are easily missed, I'd encourage everybody to use the chat box. How's that? So,
yeah.
Dom, thanks so much for the introduction. Thanks so much for this opportunity for dominating the calendar of MMN for these 3 weeks. It's an honor and a privilege. This is a great group of people and a wealth of information. So to be considered a thought leader amongst you guys is flattering, to say the least. And I hope the membership here and those that have attended have found this valuable and informative and just taken away something that they didn't have before. It's not necessarily about learning a new process as much as I think it is about adopting a new mindset to how we move forward. A lot of the conversations that I've had with my guinea pigs, my volunteers, Tammy and Scott for this session, and Brad from the previous session, was that encouragement to see these tools and how they're used as a prompt for new ways of approaching client interaction. So what we're doing here today in this series of 3 is, what do we do to build a message that gets us those first conversations, those first introductions, to cut through the noise that's in the marketplace and get the attention so that we get that permission to have deeper conversations. That gets us in the sales cycle, that gets us in a dialogue that can create sales opportunities. So this is that leading edge, as I say, that very front edge of creating sales opportunities. But what we talk about here applies so pertinently to our deeper conversations with clients and with long-standing customers. From 2 sides of the one equation. The one side, I want to demonstrate to my clients that I give a damn, that I care about what they're going through, and not just what are you going to order from me next, or how long is our relationship going to be. I want to know what you're going through, because there may be something that I can add that we haven't got on the table just at the moment that could be of service to you that we could extend a relationship. Maybe it's even just an introduction to somebody that is outside of my organization that can add value to you. There's always going to be opportunities to build relationships and build opportunities for connection if we are mindful at the front end of how we interact. So that said, let's get into the talking about some of the tools that we engaged with to get to where we are now. So for this purpose, I'm going to talk to Scott first. And I don't see Scott has gone through the work of the client analysis tool, that spreadsheet that I shared with you. And his exercise in doing that in our exchange came up with some good questions that I think may serve the group for understanding how this tool can serve you. So I'm just going to get up to a screen share.
JP, I did send you an updated one. I forgot to deal with that column A, but you can deal with that, I think.
Okay, I will. So I'm going to open with Go Sheets. And I noticed we've got some new joiners into the group here today. Since we started, I want to prompt everybody. We have to, for MMN and as a webinar host, I have to respect privacy and not give out this. There's been a request to share contact details. If you're comfortable with sending out your email, your contact details, what you do, I recommend you do that in the chat box. We've got to respect privacy and not assume that people want to be disclosed here. So the chat box is going to be the best avenue for you guys to do that. I'm just going to respect privacy in that I'm going to hide the contents of the names. Here we go. Okay, now I can share. Share screen. Okay, hopefully this has come up on your screen now, a big, beautiful spreadsheet. And Scott, you're unmuted. So just get, and we won't go into depth in this, but I just want to cover over a few things that working with Scott with this spreadsheet, some questions that raised. I'm going to assume you guys were in on the conversation from the previous webinar sessions where I gave a bit more detail. So I'm not going to go column by column here. What I'm going to say is, at a high level, what was your experience, Scott, with this spreadsheet, and what did you learn that you didn't know about your client base before you used this tool?
Well, I think it was interesting in the sense that I always think I know everything about my clients, and so if you ask me, well, who's your most valuable client, all that sort of stuff, I just assume I know the answer and that I'm right about things because that's what I think about my business, right? So I looked at this and I didn't find anything that was really shocking in here in terms of who floated to the top, but I found different ways of proving the points, I guess, which is not strictly confirmation bias, but it's also, why do I believe that that's my most valuable client? How can I quantify my belief that that's my most valuable client or type of client? And, I had a feeling of what group I was going to want to zero in on, but I think this exercise forces me to put some hard numbers and say, okay, show why do you want those clients? Why are they valuable to you?
Yeah.
So in terms of the questions and the different columns in the spreadsheet, yes, I definitely changed some of the questions, but that was just to be able to give the answers that needed to be given, I think.
Sure. Okay. And just to raise to that point, changing columns, the way to measure each of these is adaptable, and the weighting, the priority of each column is an individual choice. One thing that I think was interesting that we came out was the fact about referred business, and the fact that that was something that you hadn't been tracking, weren't aware of, and the use of this tool hopefully is going to create a new behavior and a new mindset going into interactions where, number one, when you're first interacting with somebody, you're setting the expectation, hey, I work from referrals. It's something that I'm proud of, and clients that are happy with my service, I'm proud to say, refer me. So you're getting them understanding that that's part of the process and to expect that, and open the door for referral opportunities, as well as remind yourself that you're going to ask for them. Hey, we had a great, we're a month into this relationship. We've had these results. How would you feel about, I would love nothing more than to have a roster full of clients just like you. Who else do you think I should be talking to? Having that conversation around referrals, and not a passive, hey, things are good and we're glad. The
I
other
think
thing
also,
yep.
sorry. Also, JP, some of these questions were hard to answer because they're historical. And, again, if you said, do you know this about your business? I would have said, oh, of course I know that about my business. But then when I started filling in the spreadsheet, I found, oh, it's really hard to answer some of these questions. And so it pointed out to me where some of the tracking that I'm doing is not sufficient. So in terms of changing processes for me, tracking some of these things is definitely something I'm going to look at.
Yeah. Okay. And one other thing that came to mind from our conversation also was the fact that, like the big numbers in lifetime sales or annual average can be a tempting lure to, okay, that's where I want to focus. But if we had a conversation around, okay, well, what kind of business do you want to grow, and what kind of customers do you want to get more of? You made a good point that these customers down in the next, still in that top 10 that aren't necessarily big dollars, with a purposeful low cost to serve and easy acquisition and scalable, if you're purposeful in your outgoing sales efforts and you start packing on a bunch of these clients versus a couple big ones that take up all your time and don't leave you free to be able to do your managing your business and being on your business, not in it, right? There's an opportunity there. So I think those are the things that stood out for me in our conversation around what is where our attention might be. So just I thought, don't want to spend a lot of time on this one, but just say it's a tool available for you to adapt how you think about how you're approaching your future sales efforts. Why are you going where you're going, and what considerations are you bringing into that? And when you build your avatar, who is that avatar, and why, and what experience do you have with that? Okay.
One more comment maybe for Scott. As I'm looking at this, like one thing that's one thing that stands out too is if you have several smaller clients versus one big clients, is the number of referrals that you can get from
exactly
several. When you start accounting for the referral power of this, that's where it can actually make a bigger difference.
I think that's a good point. If you only got 5 clients, you can get fewer referrals, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good stuff. Okay. Now,
JP, can you record this session, please?
it is being recorded this time. I'm proud to say.
Yeah.
So this will be available on my Vimeo channel or YouTube, depending on which one I'm able to upload it to. So, but thank you for that request.
YouTube for sure.
We were having this conversation, and I did try and upload the last one, the session one, up to YouTube, and there's something that didn't work. So I'm going to need to talk to my media expert, Sphere Media, to help me with getting that right. Okay, so at this point, so we've got empirical data that we're using to influence our decision of who is our avatar. And I wanted to now call in Tammy, and just bear with me a second as I call up her material. And Tammy did some awesome work in terms of building her avatar. And so talk to me a little bit, Tammy, about your experience in building your avatar, and what was that like, and what did maybe what was new and fresh from that perspective, as opposed to how you've been building your market or your sales approach focus previously. Oh, you're muted there, Tammy, sorry.
Okay, better?
There we go. That's gotcha.
Perfect. Okay. So I also started by sort of taking a closer look at my existing clients and seeing how much they're spending. And I too thought I knew my business a little better than I found out in the end. One of the biggest things that I realized is that the bigger chunk of my businesses are non-profits. So I work with a lot of agricultural groups, Chamber of Commerce's, churches, economic development, family centers, festivals. And in the back of my head, I was thinking I worked more with small businesses, like getting them started with logo designs and stuff. So that was sort of the biggest realization. So once I sort of figured out my top 10 nonprofits, I sort of looked at that, and then I asked all the avatar questions. So I'll just read to you about my avatar that I've discovered. So I named her Design Daisy. So first of all, I'm a graphic design company, and I do printing, signage, and promotional items. So
right.
Design Daisy is female and is aged 45. She has brown hair. She's 5'6" in height and slightly overweight. She is married with 3 teenage children. She has a college education. She is president of our local fair and CEO of our municipal government. She likes to read bilingual newspapers and organic agricultural blogs. She likes this type of reading because she loves her bilingual community and rural life. Design Daisy checks her email, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest daily. She is inspired by her family, shopping locally, volunteering, and rural life. In her free time, she likes to travel in Canada, drive her children to sports, attend church, volunteer for several local groups, and garden. Daisy is happy with her life, but always trying to make her community better. She has lived in her small town all her life. Her pain points or frustrations include trying to use her day to the fullest. She does not like wasting time and likes to work with others that are like-minded. She doesn't like complainers or people that have no regard for her beautiful town. She doesn't like waiting for products or people that don't return her calls. One of Daisy's needs and wants are personalized service. She likes someone who might take the time to come to meetings to listen to what her board needs. She likes small things like a company that will deliver. She is a perfectionist and needs quick professional service. She likes to work with someone who is local and has community values. She works with like-minded rural entrepreneurs who understand country living. She is looking for a one-stop shop who can take advantage of printing services, signage, decals needs, and offer promotional items. She likes to work with businesses that work independently and can confidently show her the best solution for her graphic design problem so that she can concentrate on her busy schedule.
Okay, so I'm gonna, the 1 inch, and this was great detail, and I really encourage people to really kind of dig deep and commit with as much specificity as possible. The one thing that I is a common theme when I work with clients on this is the temptation to look at everything through the lens of how they're going to be dealing with you. And as much as possible, I'm constantly encouraging, okay, well, what else, and what is relevant that isn't necessarily within your wheelhouse. Like I said, there's opportunities to be of service and be of value to your customers ultimately, if you can be a referral source for other opportunities. But it also forces us to think outside the box if we think about things that don't necessarily sit exactly in our wheelhouse. And I won't get into too much detail, but what I will say is this exercise, you can do it in a group setting as a team and encourage those that you're discussing this with to be constantly challenging you with, or challenging each other with, well, so what? Okay, that's great. So what we're driving towards is an understanding ultimately of stuff that's going to go into that empathy map of what is their pain that they're trying to avoid. What is their objective, their overdriving mission that they're pushing towards as their job pertains, not as you serve them. And it's a big differentiation, and it does open the scope a lot more, and it gives you an opportunity to, when you make your value proposition statement, to have something that connects to something that they do. And it might be that recognizing that you can express to them that you understand they're trying to spend more time being creative. Well, your solution isn't doing that, but what your solution is doing is freeing their time so that they can be more creative. But if all we're focusing on is just what we do and how we serve, we miss that opportunity of seeing that connection, getting them front and center, where you're hitting them in the face with, you want to achieve this, I can help you do that. So I think we're racing along here. What I would like to do is, did we get some people volunteering for, is there anybody that's eager to be leading a group? Did we lose? Oh, we didn't lose Dom. Good. Because let's have a 5-minute breakout session, and just if I'd like to get some dialogue, see if you guys get some dialogue going in terms of just quick 5 minutes. Share if you work through the empathy map, if you learned anything inspiring about how you're going to approach, and then we'll come back and we'll start talking about building that message to take to that avatar. So, we good with that, Dom? You're on mute. You're on mute, Dom.
Off mute. I'm going to create 6 breakout rooms, 3 to 4 participants per room.
Awesome.
There we go. Actually, 7 breakout rooms. There's 22 people. And so how long? 5 minutes?
Yeah, just at the most. We just want to get a little bit of dialogue about the that avatar building exercise of, we looked at our clients, we want to build, and what I want to do is make sure that if there's questions that come out of that, that we have a chance to throw those in the comments box as we move into what's building our statement.
Sounds good. And when I close the room, you will receive a 60-second notice. So there should be a countdown that gives you the 60-second notice. Right.
And you're staying behind there, Dom?
I will see if there's a room that doesn't have the minimum amount. I'll join that room.
'Cause the
Okay.
problem, the
So
challenge is-
maybe
Because one of the challenges is that there's rooms we should have. Can you go and if you want to throw me back the whatchamacallit control? Oh, it's telling me my internet is unstable. That can't be. That's not going to be helpful.
there's Grant. Okay, so Susan. So I'm gonna move Susan in room 3.
Actually, this is good too, because anybody who's just who's logged on but not active,
Yeah,
they're not going to accept the room invite. So how?
right. Like Lynn. Lynn didn't do anything. iPhone didn't do anything. Okay, so Art and Ben Hefner are together. See, Al Rosenberg didn't join.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah. So everyone who is in here still: Barry, Al Rosenberg, Grant, and
Yeah.
iPhone. I think iPhone is Dan. Yeah, there's a few here. Is there anyone that can still hear us here that has not seen the room invitation? You're currently all on mute.
My guess is they've stepped away.
Yeah. So,
Oh, somebody's. Did you unmute those? Like I noticed iPhone and.
yeah. I unmuted.
Okay.
iPhone's just Dan. I can only unmute the people that that I muted. If they muted themselves,
interesting.
I
Okay.
cannot unmute them. Right?
Fair enough. Thoughts on the pace so far? It's so hard not. I forgot to warn Tammy not to just. I just wanted a quick summary and a.
Oh, you know what? This was great because a lot of time we don't go into details like this, and I love how she went into personality details because
Yes.
it really helps you guide how you're going to communicate with that person. Oh, there's 2 red. Okay, what are those? Oh, one person, Zena, who's waiting to be admitted. Hi, Zena. I'm not sure if you are on mute.
Yeah, well, it looks like she's still connecting, so she may not take some minutes
Okay.
for everything to register before they can actually hear us. And actually, she might have kind of given up waiting. No. Yeah. That's the challenge with. So we're at. I'd say given the
minutes ago, there was a notification that someone else was joining, so I've been admitting new people.
I'd say give the minute warning now.
Okay. So if I do close all room.
Was
okay.
Ryan Mateo? Is that a new? I don't remember that in this non-breakout room before.
All breakout rooms will close in 56 seconds.
Yeah, I think some people will start breaking the breakout and coming in. So yeah, let me know. Do me a prompt. Don't. I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat box, but if there is something that I should be getting my attention, by all means, please let me know.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on it.
Yeah, I'll definitely edit this video so that we don't have a bunch of this downtime in there. So as you're coming back to the room, I encourage you guys to start throwing some comments in the chat box. Let us know what your experience was, if you learned anything. Is that Liberty Valance behind you there, Darcy? I'm trying to test my 60s.
No, that's Pale Rider.
Hail Rider, that's it.
Yeah, yeah. And Clint's like that with me all the time. Always pointing
Yes.
at me, trying to push me around.
You kind of look like him.
I'm on to him a little bit, though. I
So
hope I don't look like him today, though. He's about 900 years old now, I think.
that Gran Turismo is a great movie.
It was fantastic.
Yeah. Okay, so as we're getting back, I think time up would be everybody. So by all means, please throw some chats in. Let us know if you even just wave at the screen. Was it a good session? Good breakout? Do you have some good conversations?
Yeah, I found that Tammy confirmed my view that they're not interested in listening to me talk about me. They're interested in me talking about what they need and what they want and their pain points.
Amen. And what a brilliant segue, Dan. Thank you for that. Into this next piece. And this is working with the empathy map for the purpose of building some value proposition statements. So we're going to go really quick. I know we're fast running out of time. It's amazing how quick an hour can go. So I'm going to just call this up real quick. Okay, why do I not see the screen share option? Okay.
We see the slides, JP.
Oh, it's up? Okay, great.
Yeah, we can see it.
That's why I can't find it. Luddite. Okay, so the empathy map. We've got the avatar built, and we have the understanding of the perspective they're coming in, and now we spend a day in their shoes. We think about what are they thinking and feeling, what are they seeing, what are they saying and doing, and again, we resist the temptation to only look at this through the perspective of what we are offering in the marketplace. So I'm going to quickly and I don't want to get caught up because like both Tammy and Scott did great work on this, and I just want to have a chance to start building actual statements. So
the brother's trying to have some space too to do it.
Carol, just remind you you're mute. Just mute yourself if you're not. Dom, can you got the mutes on?
Yeah, let me go around.
Okay, so let's go back to Scott real quick, because I know, Scott, you were maybe it's fair to say you were challenged by this exercise of building the empathy map?
The empathy map was a little bit fuzzy. Once I started doing it, I was liking doing it, but it's very unfamiliar because I've never done one of these before. And starting with a blank page, it's kind of like, well, am I going to write a novel about this person, or am I going to, what am I going to do here?
Yeah.
So I took a shot at it, and I was comfortable with where I got to, although I think, as we talked about, there's some more to add maybe, but
yeah. But the point, maybe let's real briefly, your avatar. What are the 2 or 3 key things that you want the group to know about who your avatar was?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So which of these things?
Just from your memory of going through the exercise, what are the key things? Was it male, female, age? Like what was their business?
Yeah. So for my avatar, I chose a lady named Evelyn who worked in a large corporation in middle management and left that to start her own business. And she manufactures cases for telescopes. And she has a staff of 5 people, and she sells these things independently. She tends to be organized, and she values her time, and she likes delegating.
Right. Okay. So as you, and again, this, and I confessed last webinar session, when I first did my first empathy map, it was a tough exercise. I find it tough to be, to resist being very literal and only working from facts that I know. But doing that based on Evelyn, what were a couple of the key things that you came out with that you wouldn't have had on your radar prior to doing this?
Good question. I'm just going to pull up my other notes here. Some of the things I wouldn't have thought about is, you know, she's thinking about succession planning or retirement, or, you know, that's kind of her position. Not that she's not focusing on her business, but she's got that more in mind than like a very young entrepreneur would. And being inundated with all the things you hear online, there's all the get rich online schemes and all, and there's also, you know, internet horror stories that her friends who are business owners say, oh, I did this and this guy ripped me off. Those are some things that I guess I was aware of, but didn't really think about or focus on in terms of.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So we have this work again. Tammy did some great work on this in terms of where's the avatar? Actually, yeah, she went text format. But if we go into the now building in the empathy map and populating it, when we're clear on what the pains are that they're trying to avoid and the gains, we can we can start then focusing on what is in our basket of goods that can be meaningful. As professionals, as business owners, we have these long lists of features, advantage, benefits, and whether you use that language or not, there's things that we do that we think are appealing about our business, but they may not mean anything. And having that conversation as a dialogue, as a brainstorming exercise of challenging, so what? We can then populate the value proposition canvas with meaningful information. I want to give a shout out here to Daryl in the room, because when I first started taking on this information and this approach, Daryl was right alongside me, and I think I believe in this process. It's something I practice. I think if anybody in the room is a black belt in this whole value proposition scripting exercise, it's Daryl. So make sure you get your details in the chat box here and leverage his expertise in this. When we look at the value proposition statements that could be developed from our work, Tammy, I think you're still muted.
Yes.
Talk to me a little bit about what, from you talked about your avatar and who you speak to, and you built up that whole list of what pains and gains she was trying to achieve. Speak to, and I'll pull up the empathy map here, or the value proposition canvas here, while you tell the group what were the key things that you offer that actually spoke to the pains or gains of your avatar. Is that clear?
I think so. So some of my clients' pains and gains included jobs not on time, jobs not professional, need to waste time running to the city to pick up, need to spend time that she just doesn't have.
Right.
And then gains would be someone to work independently, job taken care of, didn't have to leave the office, rural values, big city results. Now, we tried to turn everything around, and now, so that's sort of what I can give my customers, but what in the end do my customers want? So trying to turn that around, it would be like my customer has a hat for everything. So they're into everything. They volunteer here, they volunteer there.
Right.
And what I can do is give them some time back. So save them some time. So they don't have to be a professional at graphic design. They know that I am. So the other thing that I focus on is the fact that my customers are quite rurally based. So just telling them right off the bat that I connect with small rural businesses. So right away, if you're on the 15th floor in Winnipeg, you know right away that you're just going to scroll on. You're not my customer.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to tell my customer that I'm going to make them stand out in our big busy world, but also to let them know that they're not a number, like they might be in the city.
And so that's a great example. And one thing we talked about, I think this was kind of came up in Scott's conversation as well, was, okay, if we recognize that these are the realities of your avatar and that they're trying to avoid this frustration of being just a number, stepping it back into more of what are they trying to achieve and what's getting in the way of that, and touching on the fact that, and it is because this doesn't feature anywhere probably as a graphic designer's job description is what you do or your basket of services, but leading with something valuable that demonstrates you understand the pains they go through. And one thing you and I came up with was being tired of having to explain over and over again because the idea is that the service providers change frequently. And this, I can't remember, Scott, you can either nod or shake your head if this came up with you as well, was that because you're not, you're dealing with an industry where there's a lot, it's treated like a commodity often, and they are using whoever is the cheapest. Well, the problem with that is they're not around for a long time, so you have to end up re-explaining what you do and re-establishing that relationship and re-establishing the baseline of what you do. Mm-hmm. So you're saving them, the idea is that you're saving them time, but it's not in the way of doing that job. It's that added bit of reality in their pain. Does that resonate?
Yeah, that makes sense a lot to me. Yeah. For me too, like, because I offer so many services, these customers don't have to deal with 5 or 6 different businesses. Right. They deal with one business that knows them inside out.
Right. So the one thing also that we talked about was when we're using this value proposition canvas and we have an understanding of what gains they're trying to achieve or the pains they're trying to avoid, in the conversations we're having with our existing customers, so that we build up ammunition in case what we would call marketplace credibility, we're having conversations around the deeper impact about that pain they're trying to avoid. So in the example of Tammy saying that she's dealing with, a gain would be not being just another client because it's a big city firm. The gain is that deeper connection and deeper understanding so that they don't have to re-explain. If we can dig deep and go, okay, well, how long, last time you established a new relationship, how long was it before they got you? How long was it before they understood what you do and do it uniquely and started having impact? And if it's 3 months versus 2 weeks that you can do, that 3 months, what's that costing them? Right? And is it, if what you do for them is help them get more clients, and you can get them twice as many clients because you're doing something that has a quicker impact, how much, then asking those further questions, okay, well, what's one new client worth to you? And being able to go to the marketplace with a value proposition statement that's around the language of when clients engage with us, because we get to know them better, we have an impact of a 20% increase in new client acquisition within the first few months because of the approach we take. If that's something that's appealing to you, let's have a conversation. This is all about value proposition statements that create opportunities for conversation. We're not going to close anybody. We're not going to say, regardless how great our value proposition statement is, we're never going to pitch it and go, okay, sign here. We're clear on our objective of what the value proposition statement is. It's to gain an opportunity for a deeper conversation. And that statement needs to be compelling and relevant to them at an intriguing, meaningful level. So does that, Scott, did we had anything in terms of our conversations in readiness for this that stood out to you in terms of building a statement? What were some of the gains or pains that really surprised you that maybe you think you can leverage now in a value proposition statement?
Still working through that part of the process, but yeah, the gains and the pains and gains, I guess I've still got a lot of exercise to do on that, is my feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Daryl? Oh, sorry, Tammy.
I find it's hard to keep things simple, because to me, and like in my mind, you want to say this in 2 lines, 2 short lines.
Yeah.
And the couple of the 2 small lines that I have, they don't even say anything about graphic design. And so I'm thinking, well, maybe
Then
that's
you're
what's
doing it
supposed
right.
to be. Yeah. See, and that's just, to me, it's just so like reverse thinking, and that's the part that I'm enjoying, but it's surprising. So like, to me, I had the lines connecting with small rural businesses, making you stand out in our big busy world. So what do I do? Like,
that's okay. So that's a great point, and I'm glad you raised that. Remember what we're doing, and it's easy to confuse the two, but this value proposition statement is not a slogan.
Right.
If anything, this is the equivalent would be it's an elevator pitch. So in terms of direct sales efforts, we've got our avatar and we've got our ideal company that we're going to be approaching. So we're going to build a target list that fits those exactly. And what message are we going to say to them? Well, it's the same idea as if we're on an elevator and we know the head of this company that we wanted to get on our books just walks into the elevator. Well, what do we say to them to get them intrigued? So it's not a slogan. It's, hey, I work with companies just like yours, and one of the benefits they've experienced is when they deal with us, within the first few months, they're finding that they get a 30% reduction in this or a 15% increase in this because of the way we uniquely approach the marketplace. I think that's something you might benefit from. Is that something we could talk about? That's a value proposition statement because it's just opening the door to a deeper conversation. It's not a slogan that we're going to put to music and put into a radio ad. It's a conversation piece. Does that make sense? Our value proposition statement is as often as possible, it's quantifiable. And that's why when going forward in our engagements with our existing customer base, we are digging deep to understand what is that value. Okay, when you guys worked with us, you saw an increase in what? You saw a decrease in what? How did that, what was the greater impact? How can we measure that? I'd love to, you know, we want to make sure we're adding value to you guys. How do you measure value? And then taking that as your ammunition to go to the marketplace and say, hey, customers that work with us, they have this sort of experience, and we think you could have the same. So I touted Daryl as the expert here. Daryl, anything you want to add to that in terms of context for the value proposition statement versus a slogan?
JP, were you directing that question to me?
Yes.
Sorry, I've got two kids homeschooling in the background. You know, I think you covered it well. You know, Tammy, specifically to what you were saying about at this point where you're not talking about your product and that's outside of your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And I think what's important to remember is two things, and I think it applies to everybody. Number one, we all have the curse of knowledge. We know more about our product, service, or solution than anyone else. And our bias is that if we communicate it, everybody's going to be drawn in because they're going to get it. And that's not the case. So what's important is to speak to the marketplace about the results that you're helping your customers achieve. If you haven't been inquiring in follow-ups with your clients, how they're benefiting from their service, how your service is giving them the competitive advantage, not just are they happy with you, but taking it one step further and saying, now they're happy with you, and how has that affected their business in a positive way? And then you want to take those stories in their words and communicate that to the marketplace. So when a customer says, you know, Tammy, it's actually amazing. We've seen an uptake in customers that have been interested in us. So we've increased our meetings, the rate of meetings we've been having because people have been loving our website and engaging with it. We were at 2 meetings a week from, you know, digital platform, and now we're at 8 meetings a week. And we attribute that to the work that we've done with you. You want to take that feedback to the marketplace and say, you know, within 60 days, my clients receive an increase in engagement because of the work we've done together. That's the message that you're taking to the marketplace. And that has nothing, in the end, it'll have something to do with you, but the messaging doesn't have to do with you. It has to do with your customer, and you're using their language to connect with other potential customers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Thanks, Daryl. Yeah, and it's that, because that temptation is, okay, well, I'm being measured by how much I charge per unit, or I'm being measured by how quickly I can deliver my service. And while that's relevant, it's, well, okay, if my service was late, what impact does that have on your business? So, you know, you do graphic design for printed material. The question would be, okay, well, if your customers, and you're talking to one of your customers and you say your customers don't receive these brochures in time, what's going to happen? And what's the impact at? Well, then, because I know my service and and the way I operate my business, I can mitigate that risk. Here's the benefit. It answers that so what, because it's tempting to say, hey, our turnaround is 20% quicker. Well, so what? The impact of that 20% is this, because my customers tell me. Or they tell me that if it's late, this is what it would cost them. So I can presume by my being that much quicker, that's the benefit they're going to see.
Yeah.
You know, when just to point out also that Scott, you had the example of, you know, recognizing in this this exercise, and I don't think this was a surprise to you, but you mentioned about how you've been around in business for 8-9 years now, where there's so many fly-by-night operations. There's, you know, that's it. It's tempting to go to the market and say, hey, we've been around longer than anybody. Well, so what? Okay. What does that mean? What impact does that have? And that reliability and that peace of mind of not having, and I think when I was that example before of not having to retell your story every time to a new service provider, we're going to be around for a long time because, right? So in technology, the temptation would be, well, new kid on the block, they know the latest and greatest thing. Well, there's other impacts, right? So we are, oh gosh, we're over. Dom, you're supposed to be poking me. Anybody have any questions? Unmute yourself. Is there anything you wanted to see? If I'm here for another, I got at least 20 minutes if you want to go over, if there's some examples that you've been trying to work through that you're unclear on, maybe test some of this conversation, by all means.
All right, JP, so thank you very much. I think that was very, very valuable to me. It took a lot out of this. You said you're making yourself available a little longer, so it's 10 after. So this concludes the official part of the webinar. Anyone who wants to stick around and yeah, network or ask more questions to anyone, where the webinar will stay open a little longer. And so next week, Dan, are you still in the meeting, Dan? So Dan Fremont, so next week we're going to present. Dan is going to present on HR. Dan, did you want to say a couple things regarding the webinar next week? You're on mute right now.
Managers, business owners are pressed for time. They have multiple decisions coming at them all the time. So what I'll do is deliver some simple, practical, systematic approaches to be able to make your decisions, move on, and get into the stuff you want to do, and have the people around you working more efficiently so they can support your business.
Excellent. Okay, so that will be next Thursday at noon. So I'd like to thank everyone for coming, and have a great week. We'll see you next week.
Thanks to the volunteers, and thanks for everybody participating.
All right. How have you been, Edith? You're still muted.
Oh, and if I did, I don't want to cut you off, Edith, but the one thing is that I noticed you taking a screenshot or something. It looked like you were taking a screenshot of the one of the slides. I'll be sending links, and I have sent links. All the material that I put on here, the tools and that, are all accessible on offline, so you'll get links for those.
Oh, great. Yeah, I'm doing good, Dominic. It's really slow, so I've been putting on my creative hat to find different ways to do business. But I think they added a